I started making ceramics when I went to do my foundation course at Wimbledon School of Art. From then onwards, I decided to go to Brighton University, which was a very broad making course with metals, ceramics and plastics. I especially enjoy working with clay because you can really express yourself through touch. Every touch makes a mark and leaves a very personal reflection of yourself onto it. So you can make something one day and you might be in a certain mood, or you've got something in your mind and it comes out a completely different way. I think if I was to make the same thing all of the time and not make one-off objects, I would get so bored with it. I love the fact that I can experiment. I think maybe that's how I've been taught, always to push different ideas and think, oh, what happens if I splash stain onto a piece or flick it instead? I think experimenting with new ideas only opens more doors and it makes your work kind of constantly exciting, and I couldn't just make the same thing day in, day out. I like that every day I go into the studio I can make new decisions, or if I can't make a decision I just won't look and place some marks on a piece. I think happy accidents are where you can get great results. I make decisions on the day how I'm going to either glaze the piece or apply lustre. It's very instinctive. Sometimes I know how I want to decorate a piece. When I'm decorating a series of pieces and I get stuck on one, I'll have to leave it. And for some reason, I can come back to it later and I will know how to decorate it. My studio is so full of things I've collected and things that have caught my eye. One thing I collect are really old ribbons and silks, and I've just started to use them to hang my baubles from. I have a real fascination with kind of multiples or series or collections. I really like the fact that they are a collection in their own, but they could be categorised into the way they're decorated, so darks and lights, mattes and shinies. I like how people can select from there to how they want to maybe start their own collection. People might be attracted to certain ones, whereas I might have my favourites that people don't even touch. And I think that is really interesting, and that leads me on to new ideas with my work and how to kind of progress. Making my large platters, if I was to cut them all perfectly, you'd feel inclined to measure and get the distance of them perfect. But I think the fact that I hand cut them afterwards, maybe they're slightly bigger on one side, but it means the use of the piece might change. It might become a serving platter where you put bread on the side, which is slightly larger, and it means that whatever home it's going to end up in, maybe that will become the advantage of being used over a normal shop-bought plate. My inspiration comes from pictures mainly. I enjoy going to the library and finding pattern through old illustrations or prints. For example, I've always been fascinated with clouds and weather and how much that impacts us every day. Then researching it and looking at books, I found people's interpretations of those things, and I think that's really interesting to find such simple mark making, but hopefully if someone was to look at my work they could associate it with something that they're familiar with. Not necessarily the weather, but that's how I perceive it. When someone picks up a hanging decoration, they're weighted differently and they might fit people's hands differently, or the plates, they're all different thicknesses, and I enjoy that aesthetic that they're not uniform and they're not perfect, but each one might have their own character. I really like it when people pick them up and see how they relate to it personally.